Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
He's not here till then.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. 7 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. First on our agenda is the flag salute. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. We'll start at the other end and we'll do introductions before members of us.
Jeffrey Grandy. Michael.
Paula Siverly, Marshawn Salter.
Ron, please. Tim Melton, sitting in the superintendent here.
Tricia Erie.
Next up on our agenda is budget here and update.
So here we are, getting towards the end of the game for this fiscal year. We started building a budget for next year, well down the path. So just to recap where we're at, we had a workshop on April 1st. Talked about what was the past, how we're doing this year, and what's on the plan for next year. We published notice, we had a meeting on April 29th to propose budget for next year. At that meeting, the budget was approved. So since then, we published another notice to let folks know that we're going to have an opportunity to talk about the budget again tonight. And here we are, is officially the budget hearing, which is required by statute. So that said, what's happened since the budget approval? On May 14th, the state received their May revenue forecast. Unfortunately, unlike multiple forecasts up to that point, this one went the wrong direction. State projected a $798 million decline in their general fund and lottery fund budget resources for the next biennium. In addition to that, separately, the corporate activity tax also is expected to decline somewhere north of $50 million. So with that in mind, it pretty much quelled the majority of discussions, particularly around our field, K-12 education. A lot of initiatives about maybe we should change funding for special education caps and IEP counts and some other programmatic elements. Given that revenue forecast, it pretty much quelled those discussions, cooled them right rapidly. However, there was and is and continues to be lead support for the school support appropriation of $11.36 billion that was proposed by the governor and that science came by the governor. That said, the state's still sitting on a $1.9 billion rainy day fund and a $2.1 billion education stability fund. We aired with the revenue decline despite those robust amounts. They said this is not the time, and probably rightfully so, because by all indicators, economically, the state is in a growth path in the next year or two. So that said, the only other piece of information that's different from when we approved the budget is they're slowly starting to release some of our other grant allocations, and Title I, which is our second biggest federal grant to the National School Lunch Program, actually under their formula, we are projected to lose somewhere between 100,000. So I'm the one that's not going to have resources to support everything that this. I'm not at the point of problem solving that through yet. That said, up to this point, there are no other significant revenue changes that we're aware of. There's certainly no significant expenditure changes that we are aware of as it relates to the budget that was approved. And from staff recommendation at this point, recommends changing the plan you set forward, knowing that it's a moving target. We'll continue to work on training and that would not suggest qualifications from such that was approved. That's the update for the budget. Public comment. I have not received any. We get in the advertisement solicit if there's any interest. Please contact us. LS calls. I have not received any. Yeah,
Agenda revisions? Do we have approval of board minutes?
Motion to approve minutes is written.
Motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made in a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Next up is student representative report. Nathan.
Hi, my name is Megan Hutchinson. I'm Vice President of Key Club. I'm Assistant Captain of Mock Trial, and I'm the Arts and Entertainment Editor of the Pioneer Press. I'm also on Sophomore Class Council, Drama Council, and Varsity Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to share an update from student leadership. We had ASB elections in early May, and I had the opportunity to go with our new ASB officers to the Barlow High School for the last Mount Hood Conference Leadership Workshop of the year. The Mount Hood Conference hosts 3 of these a year. HOSA, the Health Occupations of America, hosted their spring blood drive on May 23rd. 63 students signed up to donate. Taking into consideration students who were deferred, we finished with 46 complete donations. That means we're able to save 138 lives. We hosted our annual Dornbecker fundraiser on Saturday, May 31st. We had 7 seniors participate this year. We had a great turnout at the fundraiser with about 150 audience members. We raised over $5,000 this year, and all proceeds will go directly to Dornbecker Children's Hospital. Last Friday was our seniors' last day, and they will graduate this Friday, June 13th, at Rolling Hills. The ceremony starts at 7 p.m. Thank you again for the opportunity to share. Have a great summer.
Next up is superintendent's report.
Superintendent can be with us tonight. He had no specific items to share with the board other than I would insert, as our student just said, seniors' last day was last Friday. And we just want to say congratulations to the students that completed the program. Thanks for family support to them, being that long process to get them over the threshold. And we certainly hope that they have a hearty celebration at this time. That's it.
Next up is citizens agenda. This is the time where individuals who wish to speak on a topic not listed on the agenda below or on our sheets may do so at this point. Each speaker has a 3-minute time limitation to be respectful of each other's time. I've got 2 speaker cards. First one is Garrett Swicker. I apologize if I pronounce that incorrect.
No, that's Darren Swapper.
Okay,
That's all right.
fantastic.
I think all works.
Me too, but that's a whole. All right, thank you. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Garen Swafford, and I'm here to respectfully ask for reconsideration of my son Connor Swafford's valedictorian status. Connor holds a 4.2 GPA, is a National Honor Society member, an officer of the Green Club, and multi-year letterman both track and cross country. He was the recipient of the Pioneer Corps Award, Art Skipper Award, and he's completed numerous hours of community service, including volunteering for food banks to support the less fortunate. He's not only academically exceptional, he is a student of strong character, empathy, and quiet leadership. This is not about feeling entitled about a title. This is about fairness, resilience, and recognizing a student who represents everything that a Sandy High School valedictorian should represent. In the summer of 2020, Connor became seriously ill with bronchitis, a severe respiratory illness very similar to COVID, and couldn't complete one of 2 summer courses. He was in bed for weeks on end and was on an inhaler. This is all verified through Calcino Pediatrics. The school issued a U under the COVID era grading policy. A policy meant to accommodate students during illness, disruption. The single U now disqualifies him from being considered valedictorian, even though he has all the credentials to meet that criteria. We were not made aware of this policy and its consequences until his senior year, when I received a screenshot of it posted on Parent Square. There was no formal notification, no appeal process, and no corrective actions offered to us. I later learned that Kimberly Ball had published the policy on December 11th, 2020, when Connor was in 8th grade. And it stated that you would not earn credit towards graduation or increase or decrease the GPA. However, in the future, a student can retake a class or complete an online credit recovery course to earn that credit. I have no idea where that is or how that was offered, and that was never offered as a solution for Connor. However, no one contacted us about the credit recovery, retake options, or any guidance at all. And the opportunity was never extended to us. Connor was 14, sick and trying to keep up. One course he completed successfully. They were 2-week courses. The other, he simply could not. He fell sick in the 2nd week of this 2-week sci-fi science fiction writing course. Despite my communication with staff during this time, the responsibility, the final email went to my child and not to me, to navigate the Sloan while he was in bed. I come from a family of addiction and poverty, and I was the first to graduate high school and college. I taught Connor that while life can be really hard, standing up for what right matters, he took this to heart and he set the goal not only to achieve, but to lead with empathy, and he's done exactly that. All I'm asking is that the board advocate for one more final review of this policy. It could be after graduation, that if this is the thing, and I respectfully ask you to reach out to Maria Amaro and Kimberly for one final review. Thank you. Next on our speaker cards, Emma Cappers.
Caps.
Cappers.
Hi again. You all know me at this point. My name is Emma Cappers, and I have a 13-year-old, just for middle. Singing hallelujah. And you all know probably what I'm here to speak about. I did not prepare a speech. I'm a grateful yet very exhausted teacher and parent of seniors, so I did not prepare anything. However, I do want to let you know that I have been following House Bill 2251A, which is now being amended. And following that, the amendment was as of 5/21. And so following that really closely, I hope that you guys are too. My hope is that passes and we get to a point where our district is required to make a decision or to make some changes of the district around home free school. My ask of you is that if this does not happen, if it does not pass, that we still do this. I stand very strong and firm in my belief that it is in the
best interest of students, our children in our community, to hold that boundary around phone use in school. And I also, as a teacher myself, feel that it is unfair not to do that for the sake of teachers. Or to do that, keep a boundary around phone use in schools for teachers. Really want you to keep in mind that teachers cannot compete with technology. It is unfair and not acceptable. I did end up buying the book for each and every one of you. So I'm gonna pass them out and that was it. You want me to skim it to you or can I just? Down the line. Okay, if I went for you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Wait. Okay. That's
Almost feel discouraged for signing.
I'm glad it. You know what? I'm not too tired for that. Wait, I have one more. Why don't I?
Because, she is at her daughter's
Okay.
granddaughter's graduation.
Thank you very much.
Nothing else. Next up, certified staff update. Anybody?
No, she's not gonna be here today.
Anybody for classified? Then next up is consent agenda.
Motion to approve. That's right.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. Any abstained? No. Carries. Action items, reading of policy JHFF, GBMAA, regarding suspected misconduct.
All right. This cheery little policy is mine. So this is an updated version of a current policy. It was updated to include contractors and volunteers. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about it. It is kind of in line with what our insurance case are looking for.
Questions? It's just first. See any more questions or anything? And next up is the Oregon Trail Family Charter School contract renewal.
Okay, so we have two action items related to the charter school topic tonight. First one is the charter contract itself. Oregon requires that a charter school in the state be sponsored by either school district or by the state of Oregon if they cannot find a local school district to sponsor them. And we have had Oregon Trail Academy in our district for a number of years at this point. Matter of fact, I think it goes all the way back to 2010. They have had positive, challenging, and now positive again era of COVID operation. So the charter agreement is put together in a 5-year increment. So the last 5-year term is ending this June 30th. The change that's happened with the charter school in this last cycle is that when they tried to be a K-12 institute, they really struggled with keeping students engaged in their program under the IB operation. Because the fact is, as a comprehensive high school, let's say the high school, there's a plethora of things that we can offer as a very focused K-12 IB program. It's much more narrow, so, and it takes a different commitment to be, wanting to stick with that program. And they couldn't keep the enrollment up with it. And because of that, they ran into some financial difficulty. You can see in the summary that was put on the page there, what balance going from 275 to 54. That was hand in hand with staffing up to run a program. It just wasn't kids too. So their board made a decision to pull back to their sweet spot, which was A. And at this point, the charter school runs as an IB program for their K-5, and then the middle school, because IB doesn't have just a middle program that doesn't have a lot of other requirements that are not cost effective. The middle program is just a hybrid program. With things that kind of probably mirror off of some of the IB standards, but it's not officially IB. So that said, now that they've been in their sweet spot for a couple of years, you can see that they've gotten themselves back into a much more healthy fiscal position. And unlike what the district is going through right now on an enrollment perspective, where demographics absolutely drive our enrollment, most notably birth rates are just in a dive statewide right now. The charter school, and any charter school is a school like choice. So they're not demographically driven, they're driven by, you know, people attracted to the program. And the program has been successful and strong, and, you know, just to attract individuals to participate both in and out of the district. So that said, the school leadership, superintendent, we have no issues with recommending continuing to sponsor the program. We think that they've done a good job of getting themselves back in a better fiscal position. The program is now much more stable. Pedagogy of the ID when I'm not done, it had been for a couple of years there. And based on that, we have no problem recommending continuing another extension. The language changes. I've given you a red line copy of the agreement. Just to sum up, kind of to two things that are changed in it. One I would characterize as clerical, and the second I would characterize as just clarifying responsibility, who's responsible. So an example, if you were to look on page 7, that's a clerical fact. The program is now a grading, you know, K-3 program. So that's clerical. We're just changing it to reflect the practice that's in place. Whereas if you look on page 11, and I say on page 7, I say section 3, section 2, just to be specific for the sequence of 12. But when I say responsibility, if you look on page 11, you know, section J2 and section J3, there's more clear expectation about Oregon Trail Academy should be developing their own system of uniform standards for student conduct and discipline. If not relying on us, and furthermore, they should be administering that themselves. That's not a service that we provide for them. Whereas the language before is kind of left a little bit nebulous. So again, in totality, not a significant amount of changes. Again, I would characterize them as clerical and more on just clarifying insofar as responsibility. And with that, the other action that you're going to get after this is the service agreement. So the way that this charter contract works is simply the charter contract establishes the program that we're willing to sponsor, that they're offering to students and families, and the content of that program and expectations of the program. Separate from that is some of the logistics of carrying that out. And separate from that, the charter school is choosing to contract back to the school district and help with some of the services. And that's what the other was. So in this agreement, the other thing that we tried to do, what I consider the clerical, is if there were things in here that were really part of the service agreement, as opposed to just a sponsoring contract, we tried to make sure that those weren't duplicated. Took them out of here and made sure that they're only in the service contract, which we'll get on that next. So that said, administrative recommendation is that the school board would renew the charter agreement for the 5-year period that you jumped through. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may.
There's one, page 19,
Yes.
2, continue. The language is confusing. I just feel like there's a word missing.
Which
2,
two?
so I don't know what numbers, but
B2.
19 B2,
Uh,
just a little
the
confusing.
B needs to be, the adopted budget must consider, not be considered.
Okay, perfect. Maybe that, I'm like, something about that
And
connecting in my head.
And several things like that, I know for a fact that's already been fixed, and so
Okay.
this is the red line copy, and then when I converted this back to a clean copy, I read through it again. And more than this one, just a little syntax, because we changed the syntax without, you know, completely editing the grammar.
That's more.
Requesting an action item, yes. For approval of this extension.
Or about the extension.
For
5 years.
Is there a motion on available?
I made that motion.
In seconds?
Second.
Motion in second. Any discussion further? Anyone? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? And abstaining? You go.
And just for clarification, sorry, it's posthumous, but the Oregon Trail Board, Academy Board has reviewed both of these. It was
Okay.
So the action item next is the service agreement. So as a charter school, they're responsible for a lot of things that economy of the scale goes, it's difficult to spin up. And specifically, if I get some of the administrative services for HR, payroll, and student data system, and business budget services. So in order to be cost effective about it, the charter school, rather than going out and finding their own folks and hiring them, buying their system, manage everything, buys those services back from us. So we compliment to them and then they choose to buy that service back from us as opposed to a third party. They're entitled to go to the third party at any time. But they choose to come back and go through us. So the service agreement covers facility use. So the district owns the Trail campus that they run the program on. But you're saying to the charter school for use. Administrative services, as I mentioned. And then technology support we call separately from administrative. That's the network backbone of the transport. So it's not necessarily the end devices. That's the network backbone that transports the data to and from the outside of the world. And then food service is the other part. So of those major components, facilities, admin, technology, and food service. One of the big changes is for this next cycle, we are at least up front proposing not to charge anything on the food program, because now that we are currently under the community eligibility program, under the National School Lunch Program, which OT is able to participate in that through us. It's covering itself, so we don't need to reclaim any resource from them to subsidize, because there's no external cost that's not getting covered, it's covering itself. So the agreement simply reserves the right, should CEP go away, that we can go back and resurrect discussion about a fee for service. What gets it covered. But right now it is. So the rest of the fees established on that, the way that we come up to the base for that fee, that's we said this is the district budget for next year. We've already gone to, we talked about that a little bit ago. And we look at it cost element by cost input. So for facilities, we have two costs associated with facilities for OTA. We have one, the direct costs that we pay for utilities and some other services that we can clearly identify that are specifically for that campus. And then we have the general services, so that's our district-wide maintenance folks, storage supplies and well, predominantly the facilities leadership and facilities maintenance and staff that we allocate, because they're managing that campus as well as all the rest of the campuses. So we allocate that cost to OTAs and square footage of that campus compared to square footage district-wide. And it's only occupied spaces, so spaces for people are not a shit at it. So for facilities, we allocate based on footage. For admin services, we allocate based on staffing FTE. It's the most common thing that we can look at how to brush out those services. And then for that's for most of the admin costs. For the curriculum support type of costs, those are allocated based on students, because the predominantly is based on services, student loan. So each of the different costs, we say, what do we budget district wide? Is it a direct cost? That's all theirs. If it's an indirect cost, if it's an allocated cost, and again, they're allocated based on either square footage, FTE of staff, or student ADM. And that's how we came up with the base numbers for this year, which went up a fair amount because we had that in the middle of this last 5-year cycle, we had some pretty significant inflation that was never accounted for in the past cycle. So we had to have a catch up to recognize those increased costs. And then going forward, each year it will increase 3%. So that is the proposal. That's the changes. And it's Ms. Hafer is here. She's the director for the CAD, which she would be able to speak up if you have any questions for her right here in front. That it's been a win-win relationship so far, as it because it helps us offset some of our costs. We cover them with needed services at a much more economical level. They can bear on their own. So that said, we are asking that the board also do this 6-year review. And just as a reminder, there's an out in this. You already have the unilateral right to cancel this midstream this period, because things can come up from the perspective. What if an amazing, Goodview Junior Academy closed doors and all of a sudden there's a school facility available and it's in our district management school? They might get a chance to chase after it. They don't want to be bound to our building and have an opportunity for that. So they have an out to say, no, we're done, and here's about us. And vice versa, should something happen on the district side, that it be no longer in our best interest to offer some sort of these services, that we have ability to notice. So even though it's a 5-year commitment, or it's a 5-year plan, there is a ability for both parties to unilaterally, Questions?
Motions just over there brewing. Follow on. No motions, okay.
Motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is that a second?
Second motion.
People are just dying, we go second. The motion's been made, second. Any last discussion?
I'm excited to see the charter school still going on. I was part of its initial grant writing process in the very beginning, so I'm really excited.
So motion's been made and seconded. Some of you are excited about that opportunity. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, information or discussion items. No. If not, then we'll head towards announcements. June 13th, 2025 graduation is at 7 p.m. Can I get a whoop whoop? June 30th, 2025 school board meeting at 7 p.m. right here, Sandy High School lecture room. August 11th, 2025 school board meeting, 7 p.m. right here, same that time, same that station. And the last thing, then we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah.
Recording stopped.
Thank you. Thank you so much.